You can have 10 million subscribers and only have 20,000 views on a video. That's not good. That's not success, in my opinion. There's a huge disconnect there. Audience, it's our most valuable asset, and that audience is something that is always in the forefront of every single project that we're doing at all times. They came up utilizing YouTube, not because they wanted to be YouTubers. It was because they wanted to sell more tickets to their live shows. And that's kind of where I saw the genius and wanted to bring that into a new model of production company.
Georgia Mappin, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Julie. So excited.
You are the Managing Director of Haven't You Done Well Productions and Aunty Donna, and I'm really excited to talk to you about building a comedy business in the existing media landscape, and particularly how you're using multiple platforms to create a sustainable business. So let's start with, who are Haven't You Done Well? What do you do?
I guess like a bit of a complex operation. We've actually got 3 brands under the umbrella. I'll start with the grandfather brand because that's kind of where it all came from, which is Aunty Donna. Aunty Donna being an absurdist sketch group from Melbourne who have managed to traverse the world and build a global audience by harnessing the power of online, as well as creating a multidisciplinary operation which attracts audiences wherever they are, which I actually think is the most genius thing in terms of like the landscape and where we're at currently. They were very ahead of their time. And then from there, they started Haven't You Done Well Productions. And Haven't You Done Well Productions was for them a way to, I guess, support the change and increase the standard of ethics in IP in the industry. Like that was where it was born from. For them, for years, they've been working with production partners who had tried to steal their IP, essentially, not give them a fair and equitable share. They wanted to start a production company that was really forward-thinking in the way it partnered with creators and was fair in its ethics and how it operated in its IP distribution for the long term. So it started off as feeding the beast, I say. You've got an audience of millions across all different platforms. You kind of do need a bit of infrastructure there to help support the output, especially when they're moving on to the next project. So they had a big show with Netflix in 2019 called Aunty Donna's Big Old House of Fun. And then they made one for the ABC 2 years ago called Aunty Donna's Coffee Cafe. When they're on that, you still need to keep all the other streams alive and kicking because consistent growth is important for feeding all the other streams.
Always one of the big challenges of producers. How do you do production but also keep the development strand going?
Exactly. And it is kind of like that, but on a crazier scale in some sense. So Haven't You Done Well Productions started from there, and that's where I got folded in. So I came on board to kind of like run and expand and make that a working, sustainable operation. And when I started, we kind of sat down and worked out what the DNA of the brand was going to be, who were we going to be in the industry, what was our gap, what was our point of difference. We knew we were going to be comedy, obviously, like that was never really kind of a question mark. But the how we did comedy kind of was for a period. It was like, are we going to do TV shows? Because we're making a TV show right now. And then it was like, well, that would be weird because we've got so much experience in online. So we're like, okay, well, maybe we'll do online and TV shows. And then Mark or Max was like, oh, but I want to make film at some point. And of course, I'd want to do that through my production company. And then it was like, well, I want to do podcasts. Like my background's audio. Like Tom, our EP of audio, has been in Aunty Donna since day one. And he was like, I'm on a podcast network. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. Well, that's different as well. And then it was like, well, but our biggest moneymaker is actually touring. We should probably do live as well. But then it was like, well, actually, Aunty Donna's biggest success is their platform agnosticism. They came up utilizing YouTube, not because they wanted to be YouTubers. It was because they wanted to sell more tickets to their live shows. And that's kind of where I saw the genius and wanted to bring that into a new model of production company. I've come up in the industry and I've worked for production companies who just make one type of thing, but they do every genre. So I've worked for advertising production companies. I've just made ads. I've worked for television production companies. I've just made TV shows. I haven't done film, but, you know, you get film production companies, they just make films. But they do every genre. So they'll do comedy, they'll do drama, they'll do doco, they'll do every type of film, but they'll just make film. And for me, I wanted to flip that. So we are genre specialists. We're comedy specialists. We only make comedy, whether it's comedy doco or comedy-leaning drama. It's comedy first, but we're medium generalists. So we make it for wherever those audiences are consuming it. We're hopefully making our first film this year, which is really exciting. We have organically grown a tier 1 podcast over 5 years. So now we have a podcast network. We do live tours, we do live shows. We utilize that kind of holistic model that Aunty Donna has always done from day one, and we do it with a production mindset. Like, how can we translate the skills that we know from just being producers and place that across every different potential revenue stream? And that has been a game changer, that unlock for us, because it's protected us, because there isn't much money in television when you don't have a commission, or film when you haven't done it. You're starting off doing an indie film. There's such a different kind of like diversity in our revenue streams that has actually meant that we can lean into other areas when one lightens up or commissions dry up, and then also tap into audiences in an array of different places and then drive them to where we want them to go.
You call yourself literally a platform agnostic production company. I think that is so smart. I actually think this is a model that more and more production companies need to consider moving forward, which is one of the reasons I'm so excited to talk to you about it. Because as audiences fragment, they're not in one place. So if you have locked yourself into only one platform, you're really going to limit your production and your revenue.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I can't obviously forget our third brand, which is Grouse House, which was originally Grouse House TV. Now I think it's more like Grouse House Entertainment. It's a second YouTube channel with about 100,000 subscribers. And then it's also a podcast network with our 4 original podcasts. Grouse House was started because there wasn't like a home in the Australian industry for alternative comedy. They knew, obviously, through their own success and their own audience, that there was a hunger for it and there's an audience for it. But finding weird, offbeat comedy in Australia is like almost impossible. There was barely any opportunities back then for them to go and pitch something to. And when they were pitching, it was like, oh, that's weird, like, that's strange. That's too niche. That's too weird. And they're like, yeah, but, we just uploaded a sketch online and, we got a couple 100,000 views. And they handmade their first web series, which got over 25 million views. It's just proof to say that there is audience for it and there is hunger for it. A lot of creators, especially in Australia as well, don't actually want to be influencers and don't want to create their own huge, massive brands. They just want to be able to tap into a space that has a pre-existing hunger for that kind of content and go and make their thing and have it seen. Not everybody wants to build their own YouTube channel and have it, reach 500,000 subscribers. They just want it to be seen. Building a YouTube channel is almost impossible nowadays. It is so hard to do. So for us, we kind of just wanted to be the platform that could essentially connect that pre-established audience, drive that pre-established Donna audience, and go and promote all this emerging talent, because we are bursting at the seams in Australia with talent, in comedy especially, and we have barely any opportunities available. And so our whole goal was just to create space, to create a home, to create opportunities for creators to just exist in this world. It's not a profit generator by any means. Like, we don't make money off of Grouse House. In fact, we will probably go bankrupt investing in it until we die, because it's, just our baby. But it's all about creating space, genuinely holding space for alternative comedy, because there isn't anywhere else we can kind of go and find it that's curated and created and, so it's tough.
You've talked in interviews about TV producers or networks not really getting what you do in terms of the comedy. Is it taste or is it generational? Because as you say, you've clearly proven time and time again you've got an audience, and yet the existing structures don't see the value in that in the same way that the audiences do. Where's the disconnect?
I think it's a bit of both. Like, genuinely, Aunty Donna especially, it is one of those brands that is very, like, you either love it or you hate it. There kind of isn't really a middle ground. And I think for us, it's just our hardest challenge has always been making specific content, a focused type of content across all of our projects for a specific demographic, and Australia just being too small of a market and constantly being focused on broad appealing as the main goal. Where I'm really focused on niche, smaller quality audience, because I think that's just as valuable, if not more valuable, when you're kind of working in this multi-platform space as we are.
I think it's one of the big changes that everyone's getting their head around is that we have gone from an era of mass media where the general is good and sort of sport is what's holding that space now.
Mhm.
But in terms of stories, it's the time of the niche. And actually, there is money to be made out of passionate niches.
Yeah, I mean, you see it with YouTube, right? You see it with people's YouTube channels. Like, some people have millions and millions of subscribers, which is great. Like, that's amazing. But that is only one version of success, in my opinion. I think you can have millions of subscribers, you can support yourself on brand deals, and that's one easy way to do it. But the other side is kind of how Donna have done it. They don't have 5 million subscribers on YouTube. As a fan of 10 years of them, I was even surprised when I started working with them that they have 600,000 subscribers. I was like, in my brain, they had millions and millions of followers. They've got a Netflix show. But they don't. It's 600,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is nothing to sneeze at, obviously. But it's that 600,000 and their view rate and their transfer rate from that subscriber to view count. That is the most important. You can have 10 million subscribers and only have 20,000 views on a video. That's not good. That's not success, in my opinion. There's a huge disconnect there. There's something going wrong. Yeah. The transfer rate is actually more important than probably the subscriber count in the long term. But people are so focused on that subscriber count, thinking that it means reach, but it actually doesn't. It's that engagement that you want, that quality of audience that you want, more so than the bigger numbers.
It's a total rethink, isn't it? It's like we have to unhook ourselves from the numbers and start looking at the engagement rate in terms of getting the right sort of fans. Even Evan Shapiro, who's a great thinker in this space, came out publicly late last year and was talking about how many followers he had. I think at the time 50,000 on LinkedIn and 10,000 on Substack. But that gives him a really sustainable business because they're the right type of people and he's having the right type of conversations.
Exactly. Quality audience is very, very valuable, smaller in quality.
As a company, how do you use YouTube and social media?
In a few different ways. So I guess as a revenue stream, definitely, like obviously AdSense is pittance in comparison to, say, for Grouse, for example, we made a web series that just got nominated for an actor award, Descent, and that cost almost $250,000 to make. And I'd say the revenue that cumulatively came off of that through YouTube was less than $5,000, probably. So it's not really equitable to some of the projects that we do up there. But it's also nothing to sneeze at for smaller creators too. It is a way to support yourself. It's never been the only way that Donna supported themselves. They're a group of 6, so $1,000 a month isn't going to go very far. But it's still there. Brand deals as well. So when you have more followers, you can go in and do, like, say, a Domino sponsorship, for example. That's a better way to earn more money. But again, it's not huge amounts of money. It's a way for us to connect with new audience, a marketing tool. So for us, for Donna, and also for Grouse House, it's a way to promote new projects. It's a way to access new audience and bring in new fans. And then it's also a way to distribute for us. So for Grouse House and Aunty Donna, it's a way for us to get our core content out to the fans and also get all of our main web series out on Grouse House as well to the fans. And then we strategically use those like main series or main projects to then drive engagement over to, say, projects behind a paywall potentially. So we can help build revenue over there from, the super fans who really want to see more, or promote, for example, a world tour like we're doing at the moment with Aunty Donna. So we do one hero sketch a month on Aunty Donna's channels. And then at the end of each sketch, we'll probably have a little call to action being like, hey guys, Drem 2 is on sale now. Here's where we can go buy tickets. So it's a way we can drive and market the audience, the new audience, established audience, whatever it may be, over to a different stream. And that is kind of like how the spiral works. It's that with every single output that we do, it's kind of moving it around
It's so smart. So you're not waiting for anyone else to do your marketing. You've got your audience, you're building it, and whatever you're doing, whatever platform you guys are on, you can drive them there through that direct connection.
Exactly. And so that audience is our most valuable asset. And that audience is something that is always in the forefront of every single project that we're doing at all times. We have 3 different slates that we run, creative slates. We have the Aunty Donna slate, which is a close slate, and that's whatever projects that they want to do for the Aunty Donna brand. And then we have the Haven't You Done Well slate, which is TV and film mainly. And that is, say, one of the boys from Donna might want to do their own project that's not Aunty Donna branded. So Max Miller, the director of Aunty Donna, has a feature film that we're getting up at the moment. Mark has his first feature film that we're hoping to shoot in 3 months. In that space, we also do premium TV, and we work closely with people with similar comedic sensibilities to the brand as well. So TV and film, we develop on that slate. And then we have Grouse House, and that's primarily online and podcast. And it's all a question of, will this suit the audience? Will the audience like it? Do we have that direct connection with this project to that audience that we can jump off of and then build word of mouth marketing from there? That's, I think, our coolest points of difference when we're out there promoting. Say we're selling Mark's film. It's not an Aunty Donna film. It's not even Aunty Donna comedically styled. It's very, very different. It's a story about substance abuse and mental health problems. And selling that, we still have an eye to how we can access and connect to that core audience first, and then jump off of that with our marketing capabilities.
So smart and so needed, so audience focused. How do you prove that you've got the audience for something? Like for that film, for example, which is slightly off-brand, how have you proved to yourself and whoever's investing in it that you do actually have an audience that want to watch it?
Well, I think it's like the audience are so quality. Like they're just the best audience that you could ever ask for. It's not a passive audience. Our transfer rate's quite high. Our Aunty Donna World Tours sell out worldwide, which is amazing. Like we can drive people to different mediums all the time. And so we lean on that. We go, well, we've done this over here and we want to take the expertise that we've done over there and bring them to this. And this is how we plan to do that with our strategic approach through multi-platform engagement and driving. And so it's more of like having the Aunty Donna as a case study and then being like, we want to do that, but now we want to do it over here. So we haven't done actually like a really big major project, I think, yet that's outside of Aunty Donna. So we're still building to that. But we did sell a TV show based off of a Grouse House web series. It just didn't get made in the end.
But you wouldn't like audience test an idea. You're more talking about the ecosystem you've built and how they do come with you. They've proven they come with you to a variety of different platforms and a variety of different projects.
Well, it's actually what Grouse House is. It is also for audience testing. For example, that TV show, that was a documentary comedy series that we made with Screen Australia for Grouse House. And then we used that popularity to sell it and showcase that there was an inbuilt audience already there to de-risk the commissioning of it and to show them what it could look like as well. So that had that plan from very early on in the piece. We always ask ourselves, where do we want this to go next when we're literally ideating and making something from day one? It's like the earliest question I ask. It's like, what are we using this to leverage off of for the next thing? Because there's nothing worse than getting success when you release something and then having someone be like, oh my God, what else are you doing? And then you're like, nothing. I'll come back to you in a year when I've developed something else. And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm bored. Everything moves so quickly.
You got to keep that relationship going once you've started it.
Exactly. So halfway through, like before we released that series, like we had the TV pitch deck ready to go. And then as soon as it came out, I had that in the commissioner's hands going, check this out. This is what we want to do with a longer form version of it. And so it's, always thinking about that next thing is a really good way to leverage the Grouse House brand and test things in the market as well. We've got a game show on there called The Most Upsetting Guessing Game in the World. That's based off of a podcast that the boys do an episode of the podcast sometimes, and it's called Party Quirks, and it's just a theatre game that they've played, and it's a very popular episode of the podcast. And we were like, oh, this would be a great game show. Like, let's do it for Grouse House. We were like, all right, let's just do a little format in there and maybe we can sell it as a TV show. And then we made it as a format, and then that became the most popular series on Grouse House. And we realized that, like, no commissioner is going to buy this because it's insane. But it's a great long-form piece of content for YouTube Broden came back from the last tour and was like, it was the biggest question I got asked on tour. When are you doing another season of Most Upsetting Guessing Game? And that's got global reach now, which is really cool. And so if we ever did take it to one of our local broadcasters to get it commissioned, like that global reach might not have happened. It might have just stayed in Australia. And then we were like, all right, we've self-commissioned our own first season. How do we do more of this, but not fully bankrupt ourselves? Because I think the first season cost 30 grand. So we invested that in ourselves because we trusted the idea. Then we made 5 grand back off of YouTube. So we're still in the red. And that's when we were like, maybe it works as a live show as well. So then for Comedy Festival, we were like, oh, we want to test this out as a live show. And that season run we did at ComFest in Melbourne and Sydney paid for filming the next season. And then by the next season, we got a Domino sponsorship to come on board and pay for that season. So it's just utilizing anything and everything and being really like out of the box with how you get stuff made. It keeps it really fun because then you're not just constantly relying on people commissioning TV shows. You're like, oh, let's just get it made ourselves. And then maybe if it's cool, we can go and use that and go sell that as a TV show. Or if not, we'll just keep it for ourselves. And then that feeds the audience. So
smart. It's just such a great model. You're experts in the under 40 audience. That's very much your demographic. And it feels like something that we all need to start thinking about more. The oldest millennial, I think, is 39. Like the millennials are not the kids anymore. The millennials are the ones paying the bills. And so their viewing habits are only going to become more and more important. And of course, the generations after that. What trends have you observed in their content consumption and how does it influence what you guys do at Haven't You Done Well?
I mean, fragmented, definitely. I think like we're not as fragmented as or chronically online as the younger generations, but we are multi-platform just in how we consume. I don't think we're fans of aggregators, like content aggregators. I don't think millennials go, I'm a big fan of the ABC. I think they go, I like this show on the ABC. And I think we're fans of the outputs, but I don't think we go, I just love Channel 10. I don't think we do that. I think maybe the older generations might have in the past. I'm just a fan of the brand that's outputting the content, but I don't think millennials are. I think we're fans of the output that come with it.
Platform agnostic is definitely a generational change. And I think it is why you having Aunty Donna Haven't You Done Well brand is really important, that it's direct to audience because it can feed into that niche. Whereas those bigger brands of, Channel 10 or ABC have to have a broader appeal. So it is quite a change. And I think it's something, again, not sure we're quite understanding yet across the board how to actually utilize that change.
Yeah, I agree. Because I think we're a bit behind. I think we've tested a lot of things. I think people have tried to do it, but I don't think we're fully kind of optimizing, I guess, like the success of and the things that both sides kind of offer.
I was going to ask you about the generation of comedians coming through and what opportunities we're currently missing for growing and elevating that distinctive, great Australian comedy. Obviously, changing how we count success is one of them. Any other thoughts of opportunities that are being missed at the moment?
Oh, so many. We're just not taking enough risks. Just not taking enough risks at all. I'm just always very disheartened by our comedic output. I think in Australia, when it comes to mainstream media, I don't think anyone really wants to go against the grain or try something different. It's just like, how can we be as safe as possible? I don't think we have enough trust in ourselves as a country in terms of creative output. And I think that sucks. I think we love success, but it needs to be validated before we back it. And a perfect example of that is Aunty Donna making a global Netflix series before making an ABC show. They had to go and leave the country, and then they got to get into the room and pitch and get a TV show commissioned. And that sucks. We have so many great comedic talent in this country and such little opportunities. They're all leaving the country and going elsewhere to go and chase those opportunities. Like you look at Sam Campbell, who's just a brilliant offbeat, weirdo comedian, and now he's gone gangbusters in the UK because he left the country and then got cast on Taskmaster in the UK. Now he's killing it. I just think that's really, really sad. I think we need to be taking more risks on emerging talent very, very passionate about that. I want to see more support for our own emerging talent, our own next wave of creatives, especially in comedy. And I want to see more risks getting taken. Yeah, like, so what if it doesn't work out? Like, let's just keep trying. Let's keep trying and keep promoting and keep platforming. And that's the whole ethos of Grouse House. Not really ever going to come to us and have an idea that's too weird. If it's something different and it's taking a risk and it's, something we have never seen before, then we're probably going to want to make it because, one, online's the place for that. But two, that's kind of the brand. It's emerging talent and it's stuff we haven't seen before. And nowhere else in the country is doing that.
Having been a commissioner, one of the conversations is don't commission comedy because it doesn't travel well internationally. What's your experience been of Australian comedy on the international market?
I disagree so wholeheartedly with that statement. It actually makes my blood boil every time I hear it because I think it's really dated. I mean, you could go back, like Kath and Kim, the biggest example, okay? Like, huge success. Everybody knows Kath and Kim. Everybody loves Kath and Kim. And that's so ridiculously Aussie. Everyone knows it and loves it. And that was a global success. Aunty, Donna are a smaller example of that as well. Like, they are so Australian. They make 4 and 20 references. I think in our pilot episode, we were getting feedback from the US for Coffee Cafe, and they made reference to Beck and Leighton Hewitt. And they were like, we're not taking that out. Like, that's what we do. And then, the Americans were like, that might be too Australian. And we're okay. And like, that's what Big O House of Fun was riddled with, and that has been distributed globally. Like, I really disagree. I really, really disagree. And you look at people who are, building audiences online, and I think that they're proof of that. Hey, if you've got 10 million followers, chances are that's a global following, not just an Australian following. And they're following you because like they get what you do. Glenridge Secondary College, which is one of the boys' web series, has over 25 million views on YouTube, and all the comments underneath are, oh, this is exactly my experience. I think if your themes and you're thematically kind of focusing on the universal, but you're specifically comedically styled to Australianisms, then you can still connect, you can still cut through. I think that line, that comment is a bit of a cop-out, and I've heard it so many times when we've been pitching that I just go, no, you're wrong. If we can love US comedy and everyone can love New Zealand comedy, then why would Australian comedy not fit within that mold as well? I just don't think we promote and platform and support our new and risk-taking kind of content and creatives enough to see that work as a case study.
And when you're getting, as you guys are, millions and millions and millions of views all around the globe, it is hard for that to hold up as an argument. What innovations or trends in the screen industry are you excited about, and how are you building them into your future planning for your business?
Definitely like more leaning into that D2C model, the direct to consumer model, and becoming sustainable from that. I think that is a really cool thing that we've unlocked recently. It's that recognition between broad appealing is one thing, but then there's also sustainable landscapes that you can access through your quality of audience. Tech-wise, I mean, it's always, the platforms and keeping up to date with those. I really love Dropout TV. Do you know Dropout TV?
No.
No. Okay. So like I have like this feeling that the next wave of content that's going to come in and become more and more popular is independent streaming platforms, essentially. So Dropout TV is an independent comedy streaming platform. It was previously College Humor. So millions of followers, huge, huge comedy following, and then they went bust. So essentially had to fire everyone. And Sam Reich, the CEO, then bought it back from their main investors and then built it essentially from the ground up with like 5 staff. And now they have over 750,000 subscribers, all paying like $10 a month. And they make their own unscripted formats in their own style with their own talent. And they're doing pretty well for themselves. And so like I would easily call that an independent streaming platform. It's not trying to compete with Netflix. It's sitting in that huge middle ground between multi-million-dollar series for Netflix and then self-producing something for YouTube. It's premium online. And that's where I would love to get to for Grouse House. That's where I see Grouse House. It's in that premium online space. And that's where I think we're going to start seeing more and more, because more and more creators are starting to become mini studios of their own. There's a bunch of different talented channels that have followed that model. They're their own mini production companies now, and they're just servicing that brand, but then they're taking that broad appealing audience and they're moving their sustainability into that direct to consumer model and creating memberships and doing it that way as well, which I think is a really cool evolution in the creator industry.
Yeah, it's that green light yourself model where you just can actually go direct to consumer. It's also finding that space where the budgets aren't so big that it takes you ages to make anything back. So you keep a smaller budget and therefore you get to profit at a sooner point.
Exactly.
If you're an aspiring producer or comedian really trying to make their mark, just coming into the market, what do you think the best advice you could give is right now?
So it's kind of boring, but it is just like, just do it and make it. Like it's so easy nowadays to just get out there and shoot something on your phone. Start a channel, start building your own audience, start collaborating with other people. If you're a producer, like start offering your services, go to events, go to networking events, meet creators. Personally, I'm really driven by just amplifying other voices and being able to obviously partner with a brand that I already loved was, a big unlock for me personally. But it's just like finding your people and surrounding yourself with similar minded talent and then sharing your skills and building it. It's so in our hands nowadays. Like there's kind of no excuse not to now, apart from, oh, I just don't want to put myself out there, which is fair. Like it's a scary thing. Absolutely. But, you don't have to have a production company attached or convince a gatekeeper to get something made nowadays. You can do that yourself and then over time leverage that into getting something made if that's your goal in the long term. But you can build your own sustainable business just off of the back of shooting something on your phone nowadays. And like, that is so cool. So just like get out there and go and do it.
Yeah. Well, I love what you said about looking sideways. I think sometimes we can look aspirationally at people who are more advanced, look at the Aunty Donna guys now and go, oh, I want to work with them. But actually they started as a group of friends. They went sideways. And that's often been the way in our industry. If you even look back to the working dog team, they met mostly at university and they didn't look for anyone who was up the chain from them. They just started working together.
Yeah, I met Max Miller, the director of Aunty Donna, like 10 years ago making commercials. That's how we knew each other. Like we've made ads together for years. And I was a fan of what he was doing in Aunty Donna and we just kept working together because we got along really well. And then this happened. Meeting people is your biggest asset in the industry and just keeping them around and making stuff together in any way you can. I don't downplay the value of commercials. Commercials are so important. They're such a good training ground and they're one of the quickest turnaround productions you can do, which means more time on set, which means more experience. And so if you can get into production in any way, get in and then just jump sideways.
And commercials can also be a great revenue source. You've got a commercial arm, don't you? And haven't you done well? Because I imagine it makes part of your healthy ecosystem of being a sustainable business.
Very much so. When I was first chatting with the boys about coming on board, one of their questions for me was, how would you build sustainable revenue into the production company? And I was like, well, Max and I have been making ads together for a really long time. We're a production company. Why wouldn't we make ads? And they're like, oh, well, we don't want to be an ad company. Like, this stuff's a bit boring. And it's like, oh, we won't be an ad company. We'll be a comedy company. But we'll just utilize our comedic services to a commercial arm as well. And we'll put our spin on things. And we have been. We made the wildest ad. And that just kind of like went a bit crazy last week. We did like this full creepy son with prosthetic nipples and he like burns. And we had this epic face melt happen and it was great. And that wasn't even with Aunty Donna. That was with a director duo, Willard Zedge from Sydney, who we just loved, a short film that we commissioned into our Grouse House Short Film Festival that we did a couple of months ago. And now we're making ads together, which is really cool. So it's not just like a revenue generator. It's not just a way to utilize our skill set. It's also another way we can access new talent and create connections in the industry and then in turn make cool things.
So smart. I'm so impressed by what you're doing and it's so awesome to see your success and really lovely to talk to you. I always like to finish off the podcast with asking people what's a big idea that they'd pitch to the industry that they think would make it better for everyone. So what's your big idea, Georgia?
Well, in Australia, I think like we should be looking more to the UK for how we engage and connect and build up the next generation of talent. I think we seem to be taking a bit of a blind eye to the next generation of talent. And that is, depressing. But like the UK have really started integrating influencers into long form. And I'm doing a panel at Screen Forever this year talking about how we can maybe take on some of those ideas ourselves, because I think it's a missed opportunity. Like, these people are creating and engaging with audiences in the millions, and we're trying to get people to watch shows, and they only get commissioned if they're watched by millions. So how can we work together closer? Like, BBC have this really cool creator network that they do, and they've got influencers coming in and they're teaching them how to write for TV, or working with them on their own long form projects and piloting those, and really like getting them into the system if that's one of their goals. And I don't feel like we're doing much of that. Like, we have Fresh Blood, we have digital originals, but again, it's very ad hoc in terms of like building success from them. We've got the online funding, but I still think there's more we could be doing. And in the UK, really kind of leading the charge on that. They've got festivals focused for creators. I just reckon we could be looking to them a bit more and taking that on board in this country and really start prioritizing it, because, yeah, otherwise we're going to have none. We're going to have no talent.
So essentially saying find creators who are already doing well in the online space, so they've got some proven audience and craft skills, but then bring them into partnerships or bring them into a development workshop. Do you know how that part of it works?
Yeah, like development workshops, mentorships. We get a lot of people come to us that say, oh, like, yeah, I've got like 5 million followers. That's all cool, but I really want to make a TV show. Like, how did you guys do it? And so like a lot of how we operate is with talent who have already amassed that kind of audience, but like teaching them and guiding them through the longer form process. Like, how do you manage stakeholders when you've been a TikToker doing every single part of the process on your own for the last 5 years? How do you take on notes? How do you get a DOP and a first AC and a second AC? How do you deal with cast? How do you deal with what kind of insurance do you need? What's a budget look like? What do we do with an editor? And really giving them a pathway into learning all of these skills, layered on top of what they've already been doing for so long, and recognizing that that isn't something to laugh at. That's not, oh, you did that with your phone, you've just been doing this for the last 5 years. It's like, no. They are running their own mini studios as creators and influencers and amassing huge numbers. Like, that's a really amazing skill set. Let's build on that and see if we can leverage that into the longer form space, because typically that's where a lot of them want to go as well. They want to be filmmakers. So guiding and connecting and closing that gap, I think, is just something we need to be focusing more on.
Yeah, and building the ecosystem, I think, so that the people who've already got all those craft skills, because like you say, they've been making their own videos for 5 years, can actually bring that craft into the broader industry so that we all benefit. Love it. Great to chat with you. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me.
We Interrupt This broadcast is recorded on the unceded lands of the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation and the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains, and we acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and first storytellers of these regions. Always was, always will be.
This episode was brought to you by Screen Vixens, Expanding Media and Crew HQ. We Interrupt This broadcast is hosted by Julie Eckersley and Kirsty Stark and produced and edited by Leonie Marsh.